Well, I wasn't sure if I'd ever own a Krytac again, but I do now. And this little bugger is the Krytac Trident PDW, or as I like to call it, the not an ARP9 that's better than any ARP9 that you're probably going to be able to get on today's market right now. So when you get your gun, or your PDW more specifically, it comes in this adorable little box. Like, that's not that big. So when you open it, you will be greeted kindly with manuals and stuff like that up here. The stuff that you kind of care about but really don't, unless like you're newer to the sport, which is fine. But my friend, of which I bought this from, never removed that, which is really cool. Now, you'll ordinarily be greeted with a magazine in this spot, but instead I put the butt plate for the stock there because I wanted to immediately showcase to you guys just how ridiculously small the battery compartment is on this gun. Another thing is right here is ordinarily where the aftermarket metal flash hider that they include, well, they used to include it. This gun's like 4 or 5 years old. But he used it 3 times, so it's almost new. But this was where the aftermarket, or the steel flash hider would be included. Be right there. This is the one that it actually comes with. And then you also get this little adorable Picatinny rail segment that goes into the key mod handguard / rail. And I'm going to be putting that on there so I can throw a grip on the gun. You get a front iron sight, and then you get, if it wants to come out and play, okay, you get a rear iron sight, which if you can see, it's basically just there's a good example of it. It's basically just like the rear end of an M4 carry handle rear sight aperture. And then same with this, it's kind of like a little front triangle sight that you would basically get off of any old M4. It's really nothing too crazy or special or fancy, but they would get the job done and kind of complete the look of the gun. And then you get the Krytac. So right away, you'll notice that this little gun, not lightweight, little gun has got a hefty weight to it, and it's solid. It's solid. The only thing that was rattling there was the little mock bolt release. That's it. The stock itself is pretty solid. Even though, when you deploy the wires out, it feels pretty decent. There's just a tad bit of play, but they're supposed to be. Now, that is where the battery goes. I can basically almost touch the where it meets the receiver with my finger. I can almost get there. It's extremely shallow. So you have that much room for a battery. That's ridiculously small. This battery compartment is kind of a joke. The gun also, by the way, comes wired to Tamiya, small type. But yeah, this battery compartment is abysmally small. What you'll most likely end up doing, which it looks like that's what my friend did, is I think he stuck a battery just out of the stock and then Velcroed a cover over it or something like that. Or he may have even Velcroed a battery to the side of this thing. I don't remember what he did. But yeah, I mean, it was insanely small and it's a joke. But other than that, this gun is awesome. I mean, this thing's on really, really tight. I think he screwed it in with the Allen head wrench. Oh yeah, he screwed it in, so it's not coming off. But it's 14mm counterclockwise threads, and then you get a nice monolithic upper rail, Picatinny, and then there's the nice aluminum key mod handguard / rail. I was gonna probably put the little rail segment on the bottom there, guys. This is for airsoft use only. So, I mean, the pins on the receivers are extremely solid. The trigger feels good. The selector switch is crisp, but it's a little hard to move because it is ambi. Now, here's the thing. This side is butt useless. If you're a lefty and you're trying to switch it like this, good luck. It is so hard to do. You're better off just using your left fingers rather than your thumb to try to flip it like that. Not happening. It is completely worthless in that regards. It's so stiff. It feels like you're trying to drag a grand piano across gravel. Now, the dust cover will stay closed until you pull pull back on the charging handle, and you get a cute little mock bolt and bolt catch that goes like that. It's so nice. It's really crispy. Just, oh, I'm holding down on the bolt release. Yay! All right, the next thing to note that I like is this Phillips head screw right here for the mag release button. The reason is because when you tear the gun apart and there's a little teeny tiny Allen head screw there that every company seems to think is adorable to put there, it's a pain in the ass to get it out because you need like a 1.2 millimeter Allen head wrench, whereas this you can just use a Phillips head screw. Pistol grip is made out of polymer, feels pretty good, no wobble, nothing like that. And then I think this is metal. Yeah, that's metal. A little bit of a rubber butt plate on here, and then this is, I believe, plastic. Yeah, that's plastic. That's okay. And then the rest of it is either going to be made out of high quality aluminum or steel. So with that said, I mean, I cannot complain about this gun at all externally. It feels great. And like I said, it's got a heft to it, right? It's pretty hefty for how tiny it is. Now, talking about the internals. So this thing has had a couple of things done to it. One, I swapped the spring so it would shoot a little bit harder. It used to shoot, I think, around the like equivalent of like 390 with a 2.0, but now it's a little lower. It's been used a little bit more, broken in, etc. It's hard to squeeze FPS out of such a short barreled gun. I mean, the inner barrel goes to like the end of the key mod rail segment. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah, see there? Just right into the base of the flash hider. It's a very short little inner barrel, but it still works. And as you'll see later on when we shoot this thing on camera, it's still pretty accurate, and it can hop some G&G .28s no problem. And it does help that I boosted the FPS, but right out of the box I believe it was shooting around 350 feet per second, or like 310 with 2.5s or something like that, so it was definitely geared towards CQB. Now, I took the stock motor out. Inside of this gun, as the title suggests, there is an option number 1 brushless high torque motor. I think I'm going to need to fine-tune the motor height. I may mention this later. But it should be pretty good, and it sounds better than it does with the stock Krytac motor, the own factory motor that it came with. To me, that is awesome. The fact that it's like drop in with no bevel to pinion shimming desperately needed. You just need to toy with the motor height to tune it finely tune it, and you should be okay. That is freaking sweet. The fact that it can sound better, in my opinion, than the stock Krytac motor is good. But I'm not trying to rip into the stock Krytac motor. The stock Krytac motor is pretty decent. It's a Krytac 30K motor that came with this gun, and I think that that's not half bad at all. So, with that said, I think it's time we go and we chrono this thing and take it outside to shoot it. Alright, so we're at my chrono. I have my EPM1 like halfway loaded into the Krytac with like, I don't know, maybe like about 100 or so G&G .28s. So it's a little less than halfway loaded. And then I have an 11.1 volt 45C battery by Tattoo. It isn't quite 100% charged, but it'll still get the gist of just how snappy this gun is. And on top of that, we have the hop-up set, so it shoots just like pretty flat, maybe a teeny bit of an up curve. And again, this is with 2.8s, and I'll translate the velocity to you guys, like what it would shoot with 2.0s roughly. So it's shooting around like 1.37 to 1.39 joules with the 2.8s. So that's like roughly in the whereabouts of, I would say, 380, 385. So with a 2.0, that's like the equivalent of what it would be shooting with a 2.0. So it's not too bad at all. This is perfectly good for outdoors. It is cold, and I just exposed it to the cold prior to filming this section because I was doing the shooting at the tree test, and yeah, it is very cold out. It's like 20 degrees at best. So now let's chrono it in fully automatic, and then we can flex the rate of fire of this thing with that brushless motor. And again, it's not going to be at full power just because this battery is just a little bit like, it's probably like at 60% capacity if I had to guess. Looks like around 25 to 26, and a little bit of velocity drop there, but not too bad. So if this thing was wired to Dean's and fully charged, I guarantee you we'd be getting a ridiculous velocity, or excuse me, rate of fire. The velocity would kind of probably tank a little further. All right, so I decided to hook up a fully charged 45C battery. It's a, I think, what is it? Let's see. It's a 2300 milliamp. So this should be fast. Ah, crap. I gotta go get more BBs. All right, got a little bit more BBs in there now. Let's do this. Look at that. Spring is upgraded. So this is a stronger spring on this option number 1 brushless motor with the rest of the gearbox being stock, and then this unbelievably brickish RC / drone. I think it's more of like an RC car battery. Where does it say the discharge? There it is. Look at that, 45C, 30 rounds a second, but the FPS suffocated because of it. But then watch, we'll go to semi and it'll creep back up. Yeah, that's a lot of velocity loss. I mean, we're talking like 25 to 30 FPS that just got shat all over. But yeah, I would say I'm extremely impressed with the Krytac on the option number 1 brushless motor. And as you can hear, that response is just so snappy. I may need to play around with the motor height a little bit more, but I think as is, that doesn't sound half bad at all. It sounds a lot better than it did with the stock motor, I have to say that. So now I'm gonna cut over to myself shooting the tree outside, that big tree that I shot in my Desert Eagle video. It's not gonna be the best distance, but that's all I got for now. All right, so we're gonna be firing at that tree that's out there. I think it's approximately 70 to 80 feet away. Could be a little further, could be a little closer, but I'm guessing about 70 to 80. So it's a decent distance to test this thing out, to sort of gauge exactly like what it can do. And let's just start in semi, and then I'll do some bursts in full auto. Likes the EPM1 a lot better, it looks like. Alright, I mean, I'd say it looks pretty damn good. This is a gun with a lot of potential. Alright, so let's wrap this little review up. Alright, so externally, this Krytac rocks. The only thing I can complain about, ambi selector is just kind of dumb, like it's a gimmick more than it is useful. And the battery compartment sucks, but that's more or less a user-friendly issue that I have with this gun, is in how user-friendly is this thing? Well, it's a little short, so if you're a long-armed boy like I am, you're not going to really be terribly comfortable with this, but it'll get you by. You definitely have to, you feel like you're really holding it like super snugly to you if you're a longer, taller person. But otherwise, I mean, this thing's pretty user-friendly. It's easy to disassemble. The ambi selector, though worthless, does definitely, it's easy to install it and like uninstall it, reinstall it. It's not like a SCAR selector where you're going to be sitting there all day just trying to like realign it and then wanting to hang yourself. So the gun is overall pretty awesome. I mean, you can look at Krytac internals all day on Google Pics or Google Images. I might even throw one in here for you guys. I mean, piston seems okay. I wish they just went full steel tooth. And then I also wish that, you know, the motor didn't sound as whiny out of the box. But other than that, I mean, the gearbox shell seems pretty beefy. You can see it down in there. It's a beefy boy. Krytacs have been known to have beefy gearboxes. Some people use these as bases for like DSGs and stuff without even switching the shell, which I'm going to do that if I keep this gun long term. The compression parts seem to be pretty decent. The stock spring guide is a quick change ball bearing steel one, which is nice, so it's hyper convenient to work on because then you don't have the tension of the spring loaded onto the gearbox, so you can just pop that out first and then go into the gearbox shell. It's all around a pretty awesome gearbox. The gears seem pretty decent. They seem like they've improved over the first generations of Krytacs that used to have problematic gears that would strip. Bearings seem to be fine. You know, the tappet plate spring is all good. I mean, this is the kind of gun that if someone was like, yo, I'm looking for a compact M4 that I can just throw a lipo in and call it a day and just run it till my heart's content, I would say get a Krytac, or more in particularly, get the Krytac Trident PDW. Now, I'm not a Krytac fanboy, okay? Straight up. I've only had 2 Krytacs, including this one. The only reason I bought this is just because my friend was quitting Airsoft and he sold this, a G&G AK, an Elite Force 1911, a bunch of gear and magazines and accessory for $300. I mean, I could sell this alone for like 2, you know? That'd be a totally fair price for it. If I sold it with the brushless motor, I'd want 3, like, no doubt. I wouldn't take anything less. Not saying that that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying that's what I would sell it for, and I can do fine. Now, with that said, do I have anything really that bad to say about it? No, I don't. I think if I kept this long term, there would be the potential that I would put one of those 9mm magazine accepting adapters in here and run it like an ARP9 that's not an ARP9. Yeah, it's not, it's going to be kind of, you know, whatever. Yeah, that's not the point, you know what I mean? But I get it. But it would work like that, and then I could run it like an SMG at my field, which SMG rules are, if you're at 1 joule or under, you can run it in full auto, as long as it's a 9mm or like pistol caliber, you know, submachine gun type gun. Seriously though, I really like Krytac, man. This thing is bone stock again, other than the motor and the spring, and it shot really well in my opinion. It felt a little goofy with the K120, but that EPM1 was just delicious in it. It was just like, feed me more, please. So honestly, guys, I can't knock it. I just can't. It's a good gun. I really, you know, a lot of people want to hate on Krytac. I can't. A good gun is a good gun. You know, math is math. Like, good gun is good gun. So don't be afraid to buy a Krytac, and don't let the fanboys get you down, all right? Yeah, is it like the best gun ever? No, but I mean, it's pretty good. It's an M4 though, so yeah, you gotta live with the fact that it's kind of boring. But take a look at these things online. They're well worth the money. They're a great gun for those who are maybe starting, but they want to start with a higher budget and get something good off the get-go. They're great for a veteran player. They're great. Would be a great CQB gun. This is a fine outdoor gun. Take a look at it for yourself and see what you think. And as always, guys, happy airsofting.